So we are recording live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Impact Podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, we have some great guests for you, the co-founders of 18 Summers and author of The Family Board Meeting. Jim and Jaime developed the family board meeting strategy to help business owners bridge the gap between themselves and their loved ones. Please welcome Jim and Jaime Sheils. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you guys doing today?
Good to see you guys, Deb.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
It's great having you guys on live from Nosara, Costa Rica. We gotta love that.
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Be doing an interview.
and it's great because we've actually been there. We were actually there. Oh man, 7-8 years ago at least, I would think. Hey, Dev.
Yeah.
And just got hammered by the waves trying to get out through the break off the beach. It
I
was,
take my beans in that lineup too.
I doubt it, but I sure did. Yeah.
There's a paved road here now too.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised.
one of the
to
roads
see.
is paved now. So
Oh, they paved the road. Oh,
only
yeah.
some,
Just one.
only the main one. The others are still nice and slow and gravelly.
Yeah.
I remember. We stayed at the little hotel right in the middle of the beach there, and
Harmony.
and then we went out for dinner. We walked the little dirt track out to a tiny little restaurant. We had dinner, and then we forgot to take flashlights with us because they have flashlights over there. Said, hey, the lights go out and you can't see a thing coming back. So it was pitch black. We couldn't find our way home, and we had our cell phones, and we're using. Remember that, Dev?
Yeah.
We were using our cell phones to try and find the dirt track to find our way back to our hotel.
Completely darkness. We were just like, oh yeah, this is what they were warning us about.
It was pitch black. It was crazy. Yeah. So first thing that we do on our show here, we do 2 truths and a lie. So I've got a couple of things here. I'm going to read about, if I can find it here. I got about Jim. And Devin and I are going to guess which is the lie. Okay. All right, Dev, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Number 1, Jim failed out of college. I love it. Okay. Number 2.
Only entrepreneurs would say congratulations.
I know.
That's the thing, right?
Love it.
It's the going theme. Yeah, it has to be true.
That's right. It's got to be true. Number 2, Jim is terrified of mayonnaise.
I love mayonnaise.
Terrified. Yeah. Especially the Japanese mayonnaise. I love the Japanese mayonnaise. Okay. Number 3, Jim has saved 3 people from drowning.
Oh, damn.
I could believe that. He's a waterman. He spends a lot of time on the water. Okay. So what are you thinking? I'm thinking mayonnaise.
I'm thinking you love mayonnaise. I believe you dropped out of college. It's kind of the going theme with all of our successful guests here. And then I believe that you've saved some people from drowning because you're the surfer man. So let's go with the mayo.
Okay. And the truth is,
yes,
I'm terrified of mayonnaise. I can't stand it. I'll eat stuff with it in it, but don't tell me it's there.
I have to call it aioli.
If I see her, yeah. So it was mayonnaise. I didn't finish out of college. I don't know how I finished, but I did. That's mayonnaise. The truth was mayonnaise. The lie was flunking out of college.
Damn.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Took a turn.
Yeah, the college thing is I was really lucky. I got kicked out of college after my first term, but then I begged and I got back in to the dean and he let me back in. But I had to take all the classes I failed in day school at night school at the same time. But I had a lot of really good friends that helped me get through. So that's the only reason I got out of college. So Jamie's got a couple here, or 3.
Right.
So we're gonna guess what Jamie's got.
And what's funny is I actually thought one of a different truth was on here. And so I had based some of my answers around what I thought your truth. So I got to do a quick change. Okay, so I was cast for Wheel of Fortune. I am also terrified of mayonnaise.
Oh.
And I was Miss Teen Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Damn.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
This is not easy. I don't think I could guess it for you guys either.
Yeah, well,
Man. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna go the mayonnaise again.
sometimes I forget my own truths. It's fine if you
I don't know. Now I don't know. It's like, do we go for the mayo again? Do we go for the easy one, or do we just throw our hat in another ring here? You know what? I'm gonna go. Maybe it was a different show. Maybe it was like Family. I'm going for the Wheel of Fortune one.
Okay. So I actually love mayonnaise.
Nice.
Like, love,
And I don't
love
hold,
it.
I should hold it against her, but I don't.
I'm not allowed to eat it in front of him. It gets really
Oh.
gross down. My favorite thing is BLT with like extra mayonnaise. but
Yes. Yes. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
God forbid if I get any on the side of my mouth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just like, no. Oh man.
Everyone uses it against them. So April Fool's Day, our boys put it in a shampoo bottle, put it under the toilet seat, put it in the
No.
toothpaste. Like, oh,
No.
and it wasn't funny. Like he was a little perturbed. He was like, you better use it like shampoo bottle.
Oh, you guys, that's good.
In the shampoo. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Wheel of Fortune is real.
Real Fortune was real. I made it
That's
up
awesome.
like thousands of people down to the last 11, and I didn't get chosen for the final part, but I made it into casting and casting and casting. And then,
Oh wow.
yeah, that was fun. And then I used to
Nice.
do pageants when I was younger, which is not me at all, but it
Oh,
was
that's awesome. Oh,
I like
that's great.
things just to do them and be like, oh, I did that.
Yeah. Perfect
That's
for
awesome.
this game, man.
That's awesome. We actually had we had a guest on, a young guy, a friend of ours a couple weeks ago from London. He made it into it was a Britain's Got Talent, and he got through a bunch of rounds and then kind of got punted. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, they didn't have a sad story, so
They didn't have a sad story. That's right. He didn't have a sad story, so they punted him. You got to have
No.
the sad story on those shows. So
their lives were
Yeah.
too happy.
And then certain demographics, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Life
sure.
comes into
Fill the
play
bucket.
for sure.
yeah. And now what you guys are doing is really, I know Jim's coming and was a speaker at one of my entrepreneurial conclaves in Boston a couple of years ago. And you stood up there, Jim, and I was just like, oh man, this guy's got it. The message that you were saying really, really, really resonated with me. And I've got your book here, the family board meeting, sorry, which is, I mean, it's a great book because there's a lot of really good pointers in it. It's a quick read, and it just resonated with me so much. I just really, noticed in all the years that I've kind of been in all these different conclaves and things with entrepreneurs that family dynamics is a really tough one. Family dynamics, a lot of people lose their families over their businesses, and my kind of thing over the years has been, don't sacrifice your family for a business crisis, because we're in a crisis every day in business, right? Entrepreneurs are in a crisis every day, and it's so easy to say, hey, I can't go to Johnny's soccer match or hockey match because I just got this one thing to do. I gotta, and it just perpetuates, and it not that it becomes easy, but it just happens over and over and over again. And then suddenly you're not going to your kids' activities or their school plays or whatever it is, because business takes the priority. And then ultimately the family falls apart, which is really sad. So this is what's really cool that you guys work on and work with entrepreneurs and people all over the world with, that keeping that glue together, the cohesive glue between families, which is so important. And so, yeah, if you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, and would love to hear. So, yeah.
I know that when you just said that, I remember an example a mentor of mine told me years ago, and it was your personal health and your family is like a glass ball, and
Yeah.
business is a rubber ball. Business will bounce back. You bounce a rubber ball, it's going to bounce back. You try to bounce a glass ball, it's not going to bounce back.
Mhm.
So you have to treat it differently. And I thought that was such a simple analogy. And I think
Yeah.
where Jamie and I, and even, credit to your MIT group, to see the value in that, although we've both had friends, Nigel, that still struggle with this.
I know.
There's a lot of great information out there to build our businesses with, to optimize our business. But there's not a ton of focused education and learning out there for, while we're growing our business, how do we make sure our family comes along with us? There just wasn't a lot out there. And that's just a void that Jamie and I started researching and designing simple strategies and rhythms to try to help entrepreneur families that were struggling. You know, and we come from a place of non-perfection. And remember, all the things we teach, there is no perfect family out there. That's one thing I've learned. There's great families out there, but there's no perfect family. You should never aim for perfection. It's not about perfection. It's about bridging imperfections, making the most of the time. And Jamie and I got serious about that about a decade ago, to say we can help support other entrepreneur families by sharing our own flaws and stories and some of the simple rhythms we've put to work that haven't gotten us 100% of the way there, but maybe 82%.
Right. One of the things that really shook me, I was sitting there at the back of the class and you were speaking and you stood up and you said, we've got 18 summers with our kids. And I was like, oh my God. And I calculated in my head. I'm like, you know what? He's right. Yeah. And that really, really, really kind of shook me to my core, you know? Yeah.
But it was to your credit, Nigel, because we had great chats there for the rest of the week and then onward. It was you, I've had a couple of people, I'd say about 5 that really stick out. And you're one of the 5 that said, I love your message. It's so true. The time opportunity you have with your children diminishes after that. Yeah. Jim, I've done it right because my kids are over 18 now and they keep coming back. And we see the Pino and that.
Can't get rid of them.
Look, I've had 18 summers as a marker and a math equation you need to keep, but I've seen people down the road further than me that are extending their 18 summers because they did those first 18 right. And you were one of the people that really helped embed that realization into me. So thank you.
Well, I had long time ago when Dylan, Devin, and Keena, well, Keena wasn't even born. I think it was Dylan and Devin Dylan was maybe 5. Devin was probably 3. And I spent most of my time in Asia because I was developing my business, a young business back in the early 90s. And I spent, I'd go for 6 weeks. I'd be gone for 6 weeks and I'd come back. And I use a friend of mine as an example all the time. His name's Trevor Bowles, and he's a 330-pound lineman in the Canadian Football League. Big guy, right? And he was in the Entrepreneurs Organization. And he said to me, Nigel, you're away a lot, man. And you got little kids. I'm like, yeah. I've got to build my business. And he just literally kind of, put his hand on this big banana hands on my shoulder. And he's like, dude, you need to kind of spend more time with the family and really think about that. And that really kind of resonated with me. And from that day forward, I really made an effort to, not be away as much, and spend more time and be at those, soccer games and hockey matches and taekwondo and boxing and everything else in between. And yeah, because time goes like that. Time goes so fast and it's so easy to put things off, and then 10 years goes by and then your kids don't know you anymore. I mean, I see it all the time. Your kids don't know you. And then when they're in their teens, they don't want anything to do with you. And then it's really hard to rebuild that bridge or that relationship after that, I think. Anyway, that's just what I've experienced and I've seen. So, yeah. So
one thing I've heard Jim say a few times that he heard from one of his mentors being, the years aren't all created equal. So really thinking of the fact, when you have an infant, for me, like losing all the sleep, my clothes are never clean. There's just all of these extra logistics and things that need you. And the same is true when your business is a baby. But, as both of those things grow, or, maybe your business is a teenager or is a young adult, and it doesn't need as much attention as your infant does. And just keeping in mind that, all the years are not equal. So once your children are moved out of the home, like Deb is, you think, okay, they don't need me in the middle of the night every single night. They're not spitting up on my clothes and needing to do the extra laundry or change diapers. And so just understanding that being able to invest the time when you can, invest the time when you're needed to invest the time. So, as we were just mentioning, those first 18 years, statistically, 85% of all the time you're going to spend with your children comes in those first 18 years. As I said earlier, right. Our children still have to hang out with us because they're younger, whereas yours choose to keep coming back. And so if you cultivate that time and you really invest, then it keeps lending itself to more returns on that investment, if you would say. And then two, I heard another quote that said a lot, that if you're out solving the world's problems instead of being with your family, you're going to have far bigger problems than what's out in the world. You really have to tend to what you have before you. And like you said, all of us have been talking about, it's a glass ball versus a rubber ball. It's where are you choosing to put that time and focus, and what are the results that you're looking for?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it is so true that, there's all those years, those 18 years, where we were, the soccer and the hockey, and I loved it. Like I would go and Reiko and, all the hockey matches and all the practices and everything. And it really becomes part of your life and part of your social network too, all the friends that you meet while you're doing that. But I really found it really interesting when the 18th year came along, when they turned 18 and then they're out of high school and everything, and there is no more hockey, soccer, unless they're going on to the pros or whatever, but everything. So that there's a big social thing that for the parents too, that disappears. And for us, it's like, oh man, now what? And so just having that connection with your family and your kids outside of that, after like doing other things like hiking, and I mean we try and surf, and we do a lot of we do actually quite a lot of stuff together. So you're right, there's these ebbs and these flows to your whole relationship, and so what type of you guys hold like seminars and retreats as well for families? I see. I mean, you do your family retreat a few times a year in Florida, right?
We
Is
do.
that where you guys?
We're probably going to start moving them to Costa Rica.
Yeah, I bet you are.
As you know, Nosara is not a tough place to visit. So we've done lots of workshops and obviously keynotes for EO, YPO, different organizations like that. But I think the thing that we got most known for was our parent-child retreats.
Right.
And as you know, with our book, the one-to-one principle is something, Nigel, that we believe so wholeheartedly in. We have 4 kids, and you got to separate the parts to strengthen the whole. And when we get one-on-one time with me and Jamie, or me and my youngest son or my oldest son, that one-on-one time is key. So although we did whole family retreats where the whole family came in, our staple program that Jamie and I put together was one parent, one child. So it'd be just you and Deb. Not that the rest of the family wasn't important, but if we strengthen that one relationship and help Deb at a pinnacle age between 11 and 22 see some important lessons not taught in school that you and I get at EO or at GOT or something, one of our groups, but it's tough to bring them and explain. You're learning side by side, you're strengthening the relationship, and we do it with some fun things around it, like surfing or hiking or something like that. So that was our retreat format, which a lot of our mutual friends have come to with their son or daughter. That was our staple program, because we really wanted to have a mastermind effect with the entrepreneur and one of their children, and put the magnifying glass on that one relationship in a positive.
Yeah, because I saw that you guys are heavy into the one-on-one, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh, am I doing one-on-one with, because we do a lot of family, the family stuff, and I thought, oh, that's that one-on-one, and it really is super cool, because I know I call my daughter Kina my ski buddy, and so we'll go off, and it's just the two of us, we'll go ski, and we'll do whatever, and it's just and it's fun. We do a little bit of mountain biking and stuff, and it is really cool. And then Dev and I spend quite a lot of time together, because we were living in the same during COVID. There were 6 of us kind of in our house there, and then Dylan, and our other son, he's 26 now. He lives about 8 hours north of us in a place called Prince George. He's heavily into rock climbing and mountain biking and all this other stuff. But it was really nice because he invited Reiko and I to do a backpacking trip last summer during COVID, where we were out in the wilderness, and we went up towards Mount Robson for 4 days. I hadn't carried a big heavy pack for years, and it was just that, getting up in the morning, and then he's making me coffee, and he made I'm sure the coffee wasn't the best, but it was the best damn coffee I'd ever had. I mean, I've been grunting my ass up this mountain for and then sleeping in this tent, and he made this amazing, and it's just I'll never forget it. Those times, right?
So
Yeah.
what do you guys find like the number one reason why these like executives or entrepreneurs can't step away from their company? Is it like a fear of just like losing out on a bunch of money, or is it like they're just trying to solidify the legacy of their company, or is it just like I'm stuck in this repetitive motion and I just like don't really know how to step away and take time, or is it a little bit of everything?
I think that, really what we find is that oftentimes if you ask an entrepreneur, why did you become an entrepreneur? Usually they would say, for my family, for my children, for freedom, right? Like you list these things that then you totally set aside and you become a slave to your work. You don't spend enough time with your family, and so we really talk about, if you take a look at your values or why you chose it versus your calendar, it gives you a really clear indicator. Are you living those values? Are you living what you went into it for?
Right.
I think that so often, and you are the leader entrepreneur in our house, I would say,
So
the breadwinner entrepreneur.
I'm the guinea pig who messes up, and I think that some of the things that like our core values, like Jamie's pointed to me years ago, I'm saying I want to do that, but where is it? And I think part of it was entrepreneurs take a lot of pride in providing and protecting. Yeah. And like Jamie said, like, I think sometimes the business, we get in the way, or we feel we have to be there every second. And sometimes we mess things up. When we do that, I've learned when I've let things go to good people, we're doing better. Because it's not an infant in diapers anymore. It's a teenager that, for me to try to carry it down the street, that's going to look pretty weird. You don't need to do it. So I think sometimes, Dev, it's a reaction. Dad and I have both gone through incredible downturns in our businesses. That's a very scary thing. And sometimes we have a little PTSD, so we don't want to let it go. And when things are going right, we're going, wait, when's it going to go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And also for a lot of entrepreneurs, which is why we did this, we're a strange bird. Sometimes we don't want to admit it. We have good intentions to want to spend time at home. We're not even sure how. And sometimes we're like, look, I'm deep down, a lot of entrepreneurs just think I'm going to mess it up if I'm around. I think the best thing I can do is provide more. At least that's what happened for me. I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. Again, we have 4 kids, and I adopted my 2 oldest boys at 7 and 5. I mean, you want to talk about stepping into awkward.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, I was like, well, the best I can do is provide. I can be there and provide, or there's some sort of protection, but they want you. So it's a little bit of fear. Am I good enough to do that? Or is it best to just have me at the office more because I'm going to mess it up? And that's something I'm learning more and more about myself and other entrepreneurs. It's this fear. Are we good enough? Are we going to mess it up? I might as well just provide.
Yeah. Wow. One thing I told Jim too during that thing, where he says, it's my job to provide and protect. And I remember one day this like provide and protect thing coming to a head, and me saying, sometimes we just need you to love us. Yeah. Like, I don't need you to be slaying a dragon. I don't need you to be paying
build another business or bring it to the next level of award.
And he was like, oh gosh, maybe I have these things out of order. Maybe it's my job to love first and then provide and protect. It's sometimes we get those 3 out of order and we get really driven in one direction, and it tends to harden us toward, that part of just being there.
Right. Yeah. I know for myself, I had a coach for many, many years. I still do. Our whole thing was, we set up this asteroid belt, and we would knock off things to get to work on the bigger things and move them out of the way. And I never forget, this was probably in 2012. We'd knocked everything out. We've been working really hard over the years to strengthen the business and the family. And there was one last thing on the list that was my dream. And that was basically, setting up the business to run without me and then taking the family away for a year and traveling around the world. Right. Mm. And my coach called me and he said, hey, Nigel, this, I think we're there. And I'm like, we're where? And he says, well, this is what you wanted to do. And I'm like, yeah, I did. But, right. I had all these buts. I can't do it because of this. I can't do it because of the business and the house or the dog or whatever. Well, the dog was the most important thing, but
that's how I'm feeling right now. I miss our dogs.
Right, it's the dog. It's always the dog. And Kevin's just like, well, what about Reiko? Does she still want to do this? And I said, I think so. So I called to her and asked her, and she said, absolutely. And we made it happen. Probably in 3 months we were gone. We didn't plan it. We just took off, and we left for a year, and we traveled. But the thing was, there was so much stuff rattling in my head that I can't do it because, but there were so many but, which was all just really a bunch of smoke and mirror and BS that I was creating in my own head. Once we were on the journey, it was just so easy. And, as I think as entrepreneurs as well, it's those excuses. Oh, I need to do this. And, the family can wait. So flipping things over, we've got the family. So how are kids doing these days? Like, I know COVID's been tough on families. What do you see, the pressures on the young kids? Like, what's happening? What have you been seeing that's been happening with the kids?
What's really interesting is when the world shut down, I think so
Yeah.
often the primary entrepreneurs in the family, or, the providing parents, should I say, not just entrepreneurs, we're taking a lot of self-importance and not seeing everyone else in the family. And so what was happening is, they felt inconvenienced because they're brought home, they're working, everything is kind of compounded, and they think, oh, but I'm providing. Oh, I have to make sure that everything's lining up. What are you so sad about? And what ended up happening is this top provider in the house was often not realizing that everyone in the home had experienced trauma.
Right.
Everyone in the home was doing the best that they could. Children were taken away from their friends, their athletic activities, their school, their teachers, people that loved and cared from them. And now they're brought home to just be a monkey in a cage, really, and spouses who used to have a little time or space or be able to cook and clean for the family. Now it's like intensified. And then they're also teaching the children. And so the dynamics for everybody changed, right? We all lost our social groups. We all lost, so much of that normalcy, and we all had trauma from it, and we all dealt in different ways. And so we really came to a head on this when, we do something at the dinner table called Best and Weirdest.
Mm-hmm.
And our teens had, a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Our daughter had a total meltdown of a day. And she finally at the dining room table, the weirdest thing, she's like, I just want to hug Granny and Poppy. And it was just such a moment of thinking like, gosh, our head is so far up our own ass and thinking like, oh, it's all about what I'm experiencing, to realize that what our children and our spouse is experiencing is different, but it's no less important. And so that was a big thing that we saw through the pandemic, was that gap in understanding everyone's importance and what we've experienced.
Yeah, I think and it was a common theme as we were getting a lot of people we were kind of consulting with.
Yeah.
This was the thing. I'm working so hard. I mean, there's so many unknowns in my business, and we're judging through maybe like 50-year-old eyes on a 12-year-old. So what? They have to go home. They're not seeing their friends all the time. I mean, what I'm going through is the real trauma. I'm going, well, through the eyes of a 50-year-old, but through the eyes of a 12-year-old. And it was just a reckoning. Right. And what we saw was, the kids, I can, through the eyes of a 47-year-old, say, all right, you're not going to see your friends every day. But at age 12, man, that would have been like, hitting me across the back with a like sharp stick, it would have been just so painful. And I think that kids will come through. I am the eternal optimist on certain things. I think that this was a really shitty situation, but I think more good can come of it. And I think certain kids, if they are loved and nurtured, are coming out of this better and stronger, with more direction and purpose. And then others are going to have it's going to be a big hole to climb out of, because I think that sometimes there wasn't this respect given for what they were going through, and they were kind of pushed aside, put on electronics, and saying, fend for yourself. Indirectly, but that's kind of what happened.
Right.
So I think it's going to go both ways, Nigel. I think some kids are going to come out of this more prepared, thriving, and then others, they got some holes to climb out of.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a really good friend of ours, Jamie. He's a shaman, Peruvian shaman, Jamie Alvarez, and we've been touching base with him and doing these little fireside Zoom chats with him and this whole group during COVID. And it was really interesting because he was basically saying, now this whole period, it's a time where we come home, and we're spending time at home with the family, and we have time to think and learn and nurture and then evolve to whatever we're going to evolve into. And I thought that was really cool because I think that I don't know, we don't have little kids anymore, but I think that the little ones are never going to forget this year they got to spend, because most people are working from home. They got to spend with mom and dad, and they weren't in the daycare and they weren't in the whatever. They're never going to forget this. And it's going to be something where it was really, really tough. And I'm sure it really was really tough for managing little, but they're never going to forget it.
Yeah, I think in a good way. They're like, this is great. You have to
Yeah.
see him every day,
Everybody
Totally.
comes- yeah.
adventures, so I think
Our
depending on the
teens
household,
were over it.
our
Yeah.
teens,
But we also took in 2 foster
yeah,
children.
we had a
So we had
Oh my
4
gosh.
We had
Oh my
a
gosh.
4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and then our
Oh, wow.
teenagers. And so our teenagers were done hanging out with all of us. The top, it was like best day ever, every day.
they had built-in friends. It was,
Oh.
yeah, it was an interesting time that none of us had ever seen. Our
Mm.
parents didn't see this. My grandfather wrote about in his diary the Spanish flu, which
Yes.
is interesting to read about. But this was definitely an interesting thing to go through. And for me, I mean, and I mean this with the most respect, because it was sad to see. I had
Yes.
friends lost. We went through pain, had to coach people through business losses. Man, we went into crisis versus opportunity, and we have just had such a awakening and excitement for life through COVID. Like,
I think of gratitude.
we have such a gratitude,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
we're so excited coming out of this, Nigel. I can't even say, this is the most excited I've been since I was 22 years old, with all piss, fire, and vinegar going into my first business. We had meaning and family, and we're excited. And I think my kids see that.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's like, it's a trickle down effect, right? It's
Everything starts at the top.
yeah,
Yes.
everything starts at the top. And I'm hoping for us, without perfection, of course, but our kids see our excitement and our optimism. Yeah, there's lots of bad things we can look at, and we don't ignore those
Mhm.
challenges. We're excited for what could happen. And I don't know a better way to try to lead our kids than having an authentic excitement. And that's kind of something we were talking about just last night. Like, we're so excited right now. And hopefully that will just to our kids. I mean, they were always going to have grumpy teens no matter how excited.
Yeah.
I think
It's a natural thing.
to pull in that direction. And enthusiasm cannot be discounted at this time to look at. There's good things that can come out of this, and we have an enthusiasm. I'm hoping it's catching up.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Deb, but I feel the same way. I mean, it was another thing that Jamie did say. He said that it's a good nudge. It's kind of a nudge and a knock on humanity, kind of just giving us a wake up call. But it's bad. It was really bad, but it could have been a lot worse, right?
Mhm.
But it was a really kind of a nudge on humanity, like, hey guys, we kind of need to get our shit together here.
And all
And
all the simple things that you just take for granted every day. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, you can't go and do these things anymore. How are you gonna operate now, right? So it was a growing and building experience, but lots of people take it. I find when I talk to all my friends or whoever, it's like one or two things. It's like, oh, I had a really, really terrible time and my life is ruined and I couldn't work and da 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 da. And on the other side, this was the best year of my life. I had so much time to self-reflect. I had so much time with my family, and I got to work on myself, and I'm so much stronger now. And like you guys are saying, more humble coming out of this, as taking it on as like an experience, and where do we go from here type thing. So
Yeah, it really is there's two ways to look at it. And
Yeah.
it's not always easy to stay in that one way of more optimistic or brighter side, but it's there. You can't ignore that. It is there. And I think, like you said, there was a nudge very wise words by your shaman, that nudge. It's like if you just look up just a little bit over, you're looking down at the ground, there's a horizon just that way, I mean,
Yes.
that's how I feel. And it's
important to show our children, sometimes we have lots of discussions about, is it better to show your children the consistency and the continuity of relationships and of existence, or is it important to show them the reality of relationships and the existence of the world, right? And so COVID is something that we weren't gonna hide it somewhere and be like, oh, everything's fine.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of being that grace under pressure and of showing that we fall apart, but then we also come back together. And it's just such an important thing to teach your children, as Jim always says, we're not teaching from perfection. So, when we have the grumpy teens, or when we take a business call and it's supposed to be a no phone time, or, whatever it may be, but just showing the difference between everything. You can choose a mindset, you can take a recovery path, you can fall apart, you can have a hard day, but then just the next day can be better. And you can really choose a lot in your situation of what of that perspective and how you work and cope through those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got, I know, like, you guys like to do the volunteer work, right? You've had your foster kids, and then I've seen pictures of you guys, helping build houses and things, and, to do, we've been really, really fortunate. Like you, we were kind of coaxed in, but we were challenged to get involved many years ago with a program called Homes of Hope in Mexico. Go down to Mexico and build
you're
homes
the one who introduced it to us.
right.
That was-
And oh,
that's why we went. It was you.
oh, that's where you went. Okay, because I saw pictures. I didn't know that's where you were. Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
It was all because of you
The
introducing it
Homes
to
for
us.
Hope, yeah.
Yeah,
I found like and then my buddy David Ash introduced us to it, and then somebody introduced it. Like it's this trickle down effect, like you said. And I just found, man, like year after year, just found that volunteering as a family, there's nothing that comes close. I can't name anything that comes close. It's volunteering and doing something to help some other people or whatever it is, a cause, together as a family. I don't think there's anything as more powerful, and it's just, yeah. Yeah, something incredible. And you guys do a lot of that, which is super cool. But there's so much power in that for both sides, for the people or the cause that you're helping, also for yourselves. There's so much that comes back this way, right? We don't realize that. And then the people that are around you. And I've seen, you know, going. We've been with so many families. Hey, Dev, quite a few times,
Yeah.
quite a few times. And the families will then go off and they'll start their own thing, or they'll go off to Africa, and it's just a massive, incredible ball of family energy spreading throughout the universe, just, doing good. And as a family unit, to do it on your own is super cool. To do it with a friend is fun. To do it with your spouse is fun, but to do it with like a whole family unit, something else, right?
Yeah.
We always say, our children, one thing that we hear a lot from entrepreneurs is they want their children to know what they have, or they feel like they don't appreciate what they have. And so one way in which we really try to model and cultivate that is through active service and contribution, because you can write a check all day long, right?
Right.
And that's nice and that's
It's great.
needed,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. But to also be involved in the things that you write checks for, and to sweat it out and do the thing, and to really see each other's heart. So there's been times, with the foster, as we were going through getting certified for fostering, our oldest son came to me and was like, why are you doing that? Can we just write a chat? And he wasn't being selfish. He wasn't being rude. He was just like, what the heck? You don't need to. And I tried to talk about it, and I started crying.
Yeah.
And this is why, because whenever I think about it, I do this thing, and I don't know what this is, but it's my heart apparently. And we're just going to do it. And I don't know what that means. And then, recently when we were in Guatemala, our second son, he couldn't put words to what he was experiencing. He just kept saying, I don't know, Mom, this is just crazy. This is crazy. He couldn't even process through it. And then later in the day, he was able to. But to be able to be in situations where you're stepping outside of yourself, you're getting to know yourself and your family better, because you're seeing, where does the struggle come in? Where does the awareness lie, and then how can we help guide them and love each other through it, right, while helping others first and foremost. But it just really humbles and reveals that heart.
Yeah. You know what I really noticed was really cool on those adventures was that in a school system, you typically hang out with your grade, right? You're with the ninth graders or the 10th. Like you don't really you don't dare go down to an eighth grader and hang out with them. But when you're volunteering, if you're on a site, if you're in a soup kitchen or if you're building homes or whatever it is, doesn't matter, right, Dev? Everybody's helping everybody. Like you're helping, you know, the little guys and the ones that it's just this collective
Yeah.
doing good. Hey, you
Yeah, no,
experience.
it's totally what you're saying. It's like we go down there and then you go to the thought of to help these people, and you're dramatically changing these people's lives, giving them a house to live in, and they've been living in dirt for years. Like it dramatically changed their lives. But that's the thing, like you guys are all saying, it's dramatically changing your life and your heart, because it hits you in all those ways, and you don't know how many lessons you're learning from going and helping these people that are, in our Western world. It's actually helping us come back to our roots and realize where we came from, or where we could possibly be. Or I could have been this boy living with this family in Mexico, and this is totally reversible at any point in any time. So it kind of humanizes you again.
And I think again, you guys introduced me to Homes for Hope. That was the perfect balance. Like you said, writing a check is important. I had written a check for Homes to Hope and gotten a picture through an email like, hey, the house is built. Yeah, it's got some merit, but we're talking 10% merit, not the 90%. When you go there, and like I said, I did that first trip with all of your buddies from the MIT group and my oldest and I. And they all had to do an aha at the end of the day. I kind of just said, what was your big aha? And I remember for my son, there was a boy that was their age. It was Mike, and Mike had a son there my age, Alden's age, and Alden was there. So there was another 13-year-old that we were building the house for. They were playing soccer with him. They had to go to the bathroom, and he said, "Oh, come on in." So they had the makeshift tent, that they had built on the land. We were just laying. And Alden goes in, and he came out, and he's just that day. He said, when I walked in to use the bathroom, and it was the PVC bucket with half a board cut. It just, again, when we first started to do these retreats, we did a interview of, hundreds of entrepreneurs, and we said, what's your biggest concern for your children? And it came back like Twilight Zone eerie 99% of the time. I want my children to appreciate what they have. And something I learned from that trip, Nigel, and other ones, you cannot lecture that. You cannot instill that value through lecture, through sitting on Zoom. It has to be live. Yes. It has to be totally integrated, like you said, and immersed, and it'll stick. It'll stick, I think, forever and continue to be built off of. Because like you said, I'm sure it wasn't the second time you guys went back to Homes for Hope. No one was getting pulled there. Everyone was like, I'm in, I'm doing it. And everyone accuses these teens of being so selfish. I don't think so. Not when you introduce it in an open way and then they experience it, then ask them to go back and see what kind of answer you get.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and it's super powerful and extremely emotional. And I never forget that, we go once or twice, and we would take if the parents couldn't come, we'd take their kids with us. And the next year would roll along, and then, Devin's coming up or Dylan's coming up going, hey, Kyle came, he wants to know when the next trip is. And and he wants to know, when the next one, the other guys in the other family would be knocking on the door. And next thing you know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it's like this monster. But it's such an incredible thing, and then, these guys are in their mid-20s now, and they're all thinking about, we could go do our own trip. And
there's a different formation. And I credit you again. I know we've talked about it in others. I believe from what I've witnessed, people like Deb and that, and hopefully my sons that are growing up with our daughter, when you do this, you're formulating a different side of their character that some kids can be lacking. It's an unfair advantage. If you really want to instill that value of integrity and service and contribution, I think you have way higher odds of doing it the way that we're talking about. And
sure.
They are more evolved individuals by the time they're a young man like Dev than others would. it's just, again, it's an unfair advantage for developing character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I mean, I've seen so many of these guys and kids that have, they get to the certain age and then they start having, just there's issues. And
Not perfection.
it,
You fall off the
yeah, I
line.
mean, yeah, but then they go on one of these trips or these journeys and they come back and they're totally changed. And
Hmm.
yeah. And I remember one of Dylan's buddies, a very shy guy, was having a bit of a hard time. And then he went and he traveled. He went to Thailand. He was traveling all over on his own, came back. And then all the kids come over to our house and they're all, 18 or 20 by this time. And all the kids are downstairs hanging out and, playing beer pong or whatever they're doing. He's up in the kitchen. He's with Reiko and I, and he wants to talk about traveling and where he went and what he did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's changed so much from that experience. And he wants to share it. And it was really cool. Really, really cool. So you're so right with that. Yeah. 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 So I guess, we could talk all day. Hey,
That'd be easy.
yeah, we should probably wrap it up. I think we'd be going over an hour or so here.
Totally fine. It's good stuff.
So yeah, any other little things? What would you guys say, or anything? I mean, Dev, anything?
No, I'm just excited to have another one of these. We'll have you guys back on the show at some point. It was so nice talking to you guys today.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys like any other little points that you guys want to throw out here for our listeners?
One thing I would love to mention
Yeah.
is the book that you held up is actually our original version. We redid it a couple years ago.
He's an old fan.
Yeah, you're an OG.
I got the old one.
Old school.
So we've got, there's an updated version, and it's got, everything from popular Q&As that we received those first few years it was in print, to top tips, because we would get the same questions and we thought, oh, we should make a section on here are the answers to those top tips. Personal stories of people just like yourself that have used it, and here's their ahas or their breakthroughs or their path. And so that's, one thing I would love to have listeners do is check that book out. We do have on our site, 18summers.com right now, I believe the first chapter, you can just download it, see if it's a good fit, see if it makes sense. It is an easy book that you can read. And we had someone even tell us they read it in one sitting in a hot tub. So it's quick and easy, and it's applicable. One thing, that we as entrepreneurs try is to implement a lot of things all at once. So we go to an event, we come home, we've got the top 25 things we want to put in. As parents, as entrepreneur parents, sometimes we try to do the same thing with our family. But this book, instead of 25 things, it's one rhythm that you can add in that will make a huge impact. And so it's not about doing the 25 things, it's about doing the one thing.
Very cool. Awesome. Very cool. Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Well, I would say they're take perfection out of the playbook. Whoever family did an injustice to family life. It's not about perfection. It's about bridging imperfection. So, that's it. Take that pressure off yourself so you can enjoy your family a little more. You're never going to have the perfect business. You're not going to have the perfect family.
18 summers.
And make the most of that time. It's about making the most of the time and bridging imperfections. So take that silly perfect family pressure out of your vocabulary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Good seeing you guys again, and we'll either meet for a surf in Tofino or Costa Rica. There's
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, it looks like we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys for tuning in, everybody. Thank you so much. If you'd like to know more about Jim and Jaime, definitely check out their book. Check out 18summers.com. We will put all these links in the description of the video. And thank you so much for being on the show, guys. It was an honor hanging out with you guys and having a chat today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Good to see you guys again.
Thank you so much, you guys.